What's up, everybody? Chicago Goon here, bringing you another Arsenal talk. In this Arsenal talk, I'm not going to be doing. I was going to do like a season review, but what is there to really say? What is there really to actually talk about? Um, you can reference my videos I made of. There's three of them of the Arsenal Football Company that I made about a month and a half ago. Um, because I would just sound like a broken record, to be honest with you. It was a good first half of the season, and then it just all fell apart in the second half of the season. And I'm just going to be saying the same things over and over again about Arsene Wenger and blah blah blah. Um, uh, so I'm not going to really go into that. I'm going to go into at least this episode. I'm going to be talking about what we need to do this summer um, to really get out of the gate, really start spending some money, really start showing that we are a big club and yeah, things like that. I'm gonna be maybe doing a little bit bashing on Arsene Wenger anyway, and some of the players, but I'm gonna be going over some names. Hopefully, I can do it quickly. Um, some of the names that we need to look at this summer to really propel us up to that next level. Yeah, we finished second this year. People are calling it progress. It's not. Um, I don't know how you can say that. We finished with less points than we did 4 years ago. We finished with less points even than last year. Yes, we're not having any type of silverware this year at all. Yeah, we had two FA Cups back to back, but there's nothing to show for this season. Other than, of course, happy St Tottenham's Day. Um, talk about bottling it for the last 4 weeks of the season. They look like us for how we were in about 2 months of the season between February and March and like half of April, to where we just couldn't do anything right. Couldn't win games when we were supposed to. Couldn't get the points when we were supposed to. And of course, we threw away the league. Any one other team that you could say that threw away the league this year was us. Yeah, we finished above Tottenham, and it's a great day. How they bottled it today, even Newcastle going down to 10 men. Just you couldn't write the script any better. With all the Tottenham fans on Twitter and Facebook and anywhere you went to, any type of forums, especially there in London, just talking loads of shit that we want Arsene Wenger to stay. They sung that song during one of their games recently, and they ended up finishing behind us once again for, I believe it's 21 straight years now, since like 1995. 1994, 1995 was the last time they finished above us. So I mean, the pie's in their face. It's not in ours. You could see how how crazy it was during the game today. Um, of course, I'm a little bit of superstitious guy. I don't like to talk, too much smack during games or before or after sometimes, because sometimes it just bites us in the ass. I don't know how many games this year that we said, oh, this player's out when we're gonna play him, and then we end up either drawing or losing the game. So during the game, once Newcastle went up 1-0, it was like people already start talking and that they're gonna bottle it, and it's just like, don't start, do not start now. Um, Make sure it's guaranteed before we start, talking shit. And then it went to 2-0, and then people got a little bit more confident. Then it went to 2-1, and then it was like, oh shit. Then it went down to 10 men, and it's like, oh my god, they're gonna scrape by with a draw, and we're gonna miss out by 1 point and 1 or 2 points, and but then it went 3-1 and then 4-1, then 5-1, and then the floodgates just were opened after that 3-1, and people were just going nuts, and the atmosphere inside the Emirates, which is pathetic. I'm going to point that out. That last time we heard that type of atmosphere at the Emirates was probably the Man City game, and that was all the way back in, I believe, December, I believe, of last year. Again, maybe even going forward to that, the Bayern Munich game, the Man U game at the Emirates. But we haven't seen that type of atmosphere from the fans um, for the second half of the season at all. and that is kind of pathetic that it takes for Tottenham to bottle their position in the league table for us to start making some noise. So that has to get better, obviously, for next season, and fans have to realize that. Regardless if the players are playing poorly, or regardless if the what they're doing on the pitch. I mean, you could see the players today respond to it. You could see Ozil and Sanchez and even Giroud, and everybody kind of responded to it. They started off strong today, wanted to get that first goal right off the bat, straight away, and that's what they did. But then after that, it slowed down. The game really slowed down, and Villa was starting to get into the game a little bit. Even after before the first half ended and in the right to start the second, you could almost feel that Aston Villa was going to score. It just felt that way. We're kind of used to that by now for the second half of the season. That it almost looked like a Swansea City game, to be honest with you, to where Villa were just parking a bus. They were trying to do the counter attack, and they were actually maintaining possession for a little bit in the second half, and it got a little scary there. But then, Giroud slots that second goal in from Ozil's, low cross, and it was just beautiful. 19 assists. The guy should have had probably in the high 20s, low 30s in assists this season. 142 chances created, the most in Premier League history, the most in English history. That's crazy. That's a crazy number. And if you just think 142 chances, how many of those were big chances? You'd have to think at least 50 of those were big chances, and only 19 of them were slotted home. So you got to really think he should have been in the high 20s, low 30s. He should have just crushed Thierry Henry's record this season, and it just didn't happen because we just don't have enough finishers on the pitch. And that's what I want to get into for this episode, and just talk about the summer window and some of the people that we need to look out for in the summer window, and start to really spend some money. There's an article written today that I got linked to, talking about how Stan Kroenke says Arsene Wenger is going to have all the money that he wants to spend this summer. I'll believe it when I see it. Um, we have history, we have facts behind us that Arsene Wenger will not spend the money. Uh, is it different this summer than any other summer? I think it is. I think Arsene Wenger has really felt the wrath of the fans this season more than any. Like I said, I think this is the most important window of Arsenal's history of where we're going to go from here. Yeah, we finished second. We got Champions League football again, but again, it's just it just feels lackluster. We should have took the league this year. We should have took it easily, and it just didn't happen. And some of those same problems that we've had over the last 3, 4 seasons is not a clinical striker, lack of production from the wingers other than Alexis Sanchez, true central midfielders who can control the ball, who can pass the ball quickly, who doesn't kill counterattacks, who doesn't take 1,000 touches per touch, um, and maybe like a center back as well, because I think we need to say goodbye to Per as well. 3 guys are leaving this summer already. Rosicky, obviously, you know, thanks for him to his injuries really hampered him from really becoming the player. We saw great glimpses of him and his work rate and his work ethic and his love for the game and his love for Arsenal. But his injuries just kept him from being a lot of people are calling him a legend and stuff like that. But I think with all said and done, I think his injuries really hampered him from becoming an Arsenal legend. To be honest with you. Um, of course, Mikel Arteta, he's going to possibly Man City to lead up the youth side. Again, another Arsenal player going up to Man City to oversee the youth side. Patrick Vieira was doing that for years. Now he's with New York City FC over there, or over here, I should say, in the MLS, and he's doing decently so far this season. I think he's fourth in the table uh, with New York. Of course, they do have some talent on there. It's going to take them a little while to, understand the league and everything like that. But there's a lot of similarities to the BPL and the MLS as far as physicality and it's box to box and it's very fast paced. But again, he's going to need time to understand his players and stuff like that. But again, a player going to Man City and heading up the youth system there. Hopefully, he will come back to Arsenal at some point because even though he didn't play much this season, I heard nothing but good things and good reports from the media saying that he was doing well, training and helping training the youth side under 18s for Arsenal. Um, and then of course Matthew Flamini is on his way out too. Of course that's a lot of money as well because I think Rosicky and Arteta I think were making around 100 or 80K a week I believe each. I think Flamini was on like 50 or 60, possibly more, maybe even 70. So that's money that we can transfer to new players, current players, give them new contracts like Ozil. There's plenty of talk of him signing a new 4 or 5 year deal that's gonna be around the 200K a week for him. He deserves it. He's that type of player. He's that great of a player, especially the season that he's had. The consistency that he showed this whole season, he deserves it. But he needs players to help him out to get the most out of him, because you just don't let a player that great, that good, go to waste. And right now we are really wasting him. Um, we possibly need another center back. Like I said, with Per going out the door, not too sure what's going to be available. There's a couple names I'm gonna throw out there, but not much else. But let's get into it. Um, this summer, like I said, with the fans coming down on Arsene Wenger, which with what he saw during the second half of the season with certain players, I think he's finally come to the realization that the loyalty that he's shown these players, that some of these players, hasn't paid off, especially to him. Olivier Giroud, he went on a disappearing act. You can say what you want of him over the last 2 games. Those are 2 games. That's it. It took him over 800 minutes to score his first Premier League goal since February, I believe. Um, that's not a good striker. That's not a great striker. That's an average striker. Give me a striker that plays on the bench for some scrub ass team and they would not go 800 minutes without a goal. With Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, any one of our midfield winners servicing the ball to him, and that player would not go over 800 minutes without scoring a damn goal. Danny Welbeck came back. I'm good. Just gutted for him. Um, Man, the guy, shows great work rate, shows great passion, doesn't give up, goes after those 50-50 balls like he did in the Man City game, and he busted out his knee and he won't be back until I guess next April, which is a long time. So this summer a striker is needed. A striker is needed to be bought this summer. And like I said, just to go over the players that I think Arsene Wenger has been maybe kind of fed up with, that he showed great loyalty to. Olivier Giroud being one of them, Aaron Ramsey being one of them, Oxlade Chamberlain being one of them. Of course, we probably can't sell him now because he's not going to be back until October with his setback. The whole medical staff from Arsenal needs to be fired immediately. That physio that was inspecting Danny Welbeck in that Man City game basically told him, go back onto the pitch and run it off. That is just, anyone who says that from a player that knows he's injured and is telling the physio, I'm not right. Something went wrong. I felt a pop. I felt something give. But then he's telling him to go back onto the pitch and walk it off and run it off. That's just poor. That's not protecting the players. That's not even good medical practice right there. And that whole staff should just be fired and gone. Personally, I think along with Arsene Wenger, the entire staff under him needs to be gone. The position coaches, what are they teaching these guys? You know, who's getting better? That's what you got to look at. Who's getting better? Week after week. Are they learning anything? Are they learning anything about their position? It doesn't seem like that. But to go into the strikers, because we need a clinical striker. We need a striker who's going to score us, at least 20 league goals every single season. Olivier Giroud has yet to do that. He was supposed to be that guy. I mean, it's been 4 seasons now that we haven't even replaced RVP. We obviously it shows over the last several years that we need a striker. Look at all the strikers that have won the BPL over the last 3, 4, 5 years. They've all scored 20 or more goals in the league during that time. Same thing with this. Vardy scored what? He had 21, 22 goals this season. Harry Kane won the Golden Boot with 24, 25 goals. Aguero is still up there with 20 or more goals. We need a striker like that. And Olivier Giroud is just not that guy. He will never be that guy. So we need players to come in that's going to do that. That's going to score us not only 20 league goals, but get us into that 30 mark. Get us 30 to 35 goals in all competitions. Because it's possible to do that. You have the best number 10 in the world. You have a decent passing winger in Alexis Sanchez. You have a Jack Wilshere who is a great passer. You have a Santi Gazzola who's a great passer. I mean, it's kind of like endless, if you really think about it. And but we still stick with the same people. But I think Arsene Wenger, hopefully, he sees after this season that we need to move on with some of these players because one, they're not getting better, and two, they're not helping us progress. So in the strikers, wrote down a bunch. Let's see, I got one, two, three. I got 6 names or 5 names, and possibly a sixth one. Um, there's 2 names that I would buy um, without a doubt. I mean, they would just make Arsenal better instantly. One of them being is Lukaku. He's proven it everywhere he's gone. He's been loaned out, bought. He scored what, like 18, 19 goals with fucking West Brom a few years back. He had a good loan spell with Everton. His first loan spell before Everton bought him. He had 18 league goals this season. He didn't finish strong, but again, with the way Everton was playing, with the lack of players that they do have, creative players, good passing players, um, the way Roberto Martinez set up his whole, again, that guy's not a tactical genius at all either. But Lukaku would be, he has pace, he has power, he's good in the air, he has a great left foot, he can make, he has skill on the ball, he can make his own shot. That's the thing that we've been lacking so much over the last 4 years is Giroud cannot create his own shot. And you look at the strike force from Ian Wright all the way through RVP. Every single one of them could create their own shot, and that's what's killing us the most right now. Because all they have to do with Giroud is both center backs squeeze him in, stay tight to him, and there's nothing there. And then they can focus more on Alexis Sanchez. Then they can focus more on Mesut Ozil for not making that final pass. It's just easy. It's just easy to defend us. But if we have a clinical striker, we have a striker who can make a turn, take a couple touches, make a half a yard of space for himself, because that's all that clinical strikers really need to do, and take a shot on goal. And Lukaku, he's not afraid to shoot. Where Olivier Giroud, he is so afraid to shoot. Like I've pointed out on other episodes, he has such a high conversion rate because he'd rather pass first than shoot. He'd rather just do tap ins and headers. That's it. You look at all of Giroud's goals over his career at Arsenal, and very few of them are outside the box. Very few of him taking a touch or two and then putting a shot on goal. They're all tap ins, they're all headers. Probably about at least 85% to 90% of his goals through Arsenal. And that's not what we need. That's not how this attack is structured. You look at some of the other clubs that play a, as they call a ticky tack type of football. A Lewandowski, a Suarez, a Messi, a Neymar. Any one of them could play that striker role. They can all make space for themselves. They can all get on the ball and create space for themselves to get a shot off. But we don't have that. We did have that. And look, RVP scored 30 plus goals in his last 2 seasons. You know, Terry Henry speaks for himself. Even um, Anelka, Wilt, the strike, the complete strike force. They could all make space for himself. Lukaku can be that guy, and plus he is a proven BPL striker that can score you loads of goals, especially when you need them. And when you have a guy like Mesut Ozil dealing you the ball, I mean, the guy could probably easily be a 25 goal league striker, easily. So that's one name. I mean, still going to cost some money. People are, ranting off different kind of numbers between 40 and 50 million pounds. Let's pay it. We have it. Pay that money. He's still young. He's still very young. I think he's 23, 24. Why not pay it? We had the money. We had the money. Even Lukaku has. Even last season, he went on record saying that I want to get back to a big club at some point. That I'm bigger than I think my skills in my career can be bigger than Everton. He even said that in the newspaper, which is pretty shocking, considering that he's playing for Everton and he's already kind of saying this type of stuff. And believe me, he's had a chip on his shoulder um, ever since he's been sold to Everton to kind of stick his nose up at Jose Mourinho, saying, "Look, I am a good striker." Same with De Bruyne. I mean, some of the dumbest moves from Jose Mourinho in his tenure as a manager of getting rid of those two players from Chelsea, when if they'd had them, they wouldn't, he probably wouldn't have been fired, for one, and two, they wouldn't have be out of Champions League this year at all either. So Lukaku is definitely a name. One name that's just going to be, in my opinion, a pipe dream is Patrick Aubameyang from Dortmund. I think he really enjoys his football up there. He seems to have a good rapport and a good friendship with Marco Reus. So I think that's kind of a pipe dream. That would probably cost anywhere from 60 to 65 million euros to buy him off from Dortmund. He has no reason to leave either. He's getting first team football. They're back in Champions League. They were 8 points off from winning the league this season. They really kept it close for a while there against Bayern Munich. Their new manager up there, he seems he's got the ball rolling. He's got those guys motivated again to play. They're going to be losing Hummels, which I'll get into a little bit later. But again, it's a pipe dream, but why not? Make an inquiry. See how much he's going to cost. See how much Dortmund, wants for him. See if he even wants to come to Arsenal. Chances are, I don't think he will. He made a couple comments during the January window that he's not coming, and he kind of made a laugh at us a little bit too, as well. So that's a little bit of a pipe dream. But of course, I would definitely want him at Arsenal because he has that pace. He has the finishing. He's gotten better every single season at Arsenal. How Arsene Wenger did not buy him while he was in League is beyond me. Because he would have been the perfect. I mean, he was a perfect Arsenal player. He was cheap, he was pacey, skill on the ball, and could finish a little bit at that time. He only cost Dortmund 14 million euros. That's it. He was a perfect Arsenal buy, but Dortmund picked him up before us. Dortmund was able to identify him before we could, and it's a loss. It really is. Because imagine if we had him instead of Giroud, or having him instead of any one of our strikers that we've had over the last 3 or 4 seasons. He would have definitely made us better. And plus, how he's gotten better as the years gone on. I mean, it would have been a perfect Arsenal buy at the time. But like I said, I think it's a pipe dream. Um, Next name, of course, he was pretty popular last year. He's not as popular this year. Is Lacazette from Lyon. Um, he hasn't had the great year that he did last year. There was a lot of injuries in Lyon this year. Fakir being one of them. I would love him at Arsenal. I think he can be. I'll get into Lacazette first, but the president of Lyon already said that Lacazette to buy him uh, off of Lyon, they're already calling him a world class player, which I don't think he is. I think he's probably close to top tier, but I don't think he is top tier or world class. But Leon has already said that it's going to cost 50 million pounds to buy him. Uh, and that kind of tells me that it's possible that PSG might be looking at him. Maybe that's a message being sent through the channels of telling PSG, well, this is how much is gonna spend, or this is gonna cost for us to sell him. And with PSG, they'll just pay it. They won't give a shit. 50 million, they don't give a shit. I mean, that's just how they deal things. They just want to win. Um, they have complete control over Liga, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop either. But would I pay 50 million euros for a Lacazette? No. I'd rather pay 50 million euros for a Lukaku. I'd rather pay 50 million and add another 10 or 15 million to it to get Aubameyang instead. Um, I'd rather have those two guys rather than a Lacazette. Yeah, he offers pace. He's good on the ball. He's a decent finisher. But again, I think there's better names out there that are more consistent and more of our style of football than a Lacazette. Um, like I said, even last season, we had a Lacazette and Theo Walcott, and he just imploded. And he's going to be another player I think that's going to be sold this summer. At least I hope so. Get some type of money for the guy like him and Aaron Ramsey and even Giroud. Get whatever you can for him, because as time goes on, their star is going to get lower. They're not going to be as worth as much. They're getting older. You're not going to be able to sell them. You could probably get 25 for an Aaron Ramsey. You could probably get 25 for a Theo Walcott just because, especially Theo because he is English and he's going to be transferred obviously to a team in the BPL. So that's possible. Um, Another name that's being popped up again this summer already, even in the spring, is Morata. He plays for Juventus currently. There's a lot of talk about him um, being bought back by Real Madrid and then being sold to us. Um, I believe the buyback clause is something around 23 million euros. So if they're going to pay that back, 23 million euros to buy him back, that means that Real Madrid is probably not going to sell him to us for anything less than 35. And you kind of do the math. You kind of look at the player. Morata didn't have a good year this year. I think he only had something like 15 total goals. I know a lot has changed in Juventus from last year to making the Champions League final. They didn't exactly have the same. He didn't have exactly have the same type of strike partner as he did last season. But again, he just didn't have that great of a year. So why would you pay 35 million for a player like that just because you like him or you like his game? That's not enough for me. That's not enough to pay 30, 35, even maybe even 40 million euros for a guy who hasn't really shown any type of greatness. I know people, he's just like the ox in a way, to where he still has that potential tag on his forehead, and people are using that to say, well, he has so much potential, we want this much money. Um, Again, if he's going to cost 35 million euros and a Lukaku's only going to cost anywhere from maybe 40 to 45, why wouldn't you pay Lukaku, who's more proven in the BPL than a Morata? But again, Morata seems like a good prospect. He seems like he could probably do well in an Arsenal side. He has a decent shot to him. He's an okay finisher. Um, I think he could probably learn a lot from playing with guys like, an Ozil and a Sanchez. But again, it just seems I'm on the fence on that one. I would welcome him. He has a lot more pace than Olivier Giroud, especially for a tall guy. He has a lot more pace than him. And that's something that we kind of need is someone with some pace, someone with some power, to have the kind of like the perfect balance between pace and power. Something that we've been lacking since RVP left. I mean, even RVP wasn't the fastest player in the world. He's still 10 times faster than Giroud was, or than Giroud is. So that's a name to look out for. Um, Another player is Higuain from Serie A. Just broke the Serie A record. It's kind of a slap in the face, I guess you can say, from that summer of Ozil when we were said to be so close to signing Higuain that summer, which made sense, which made more sense. Since Ozil and Higuain were playing together at Real Madrid, it would make sense to buy him so that Ozil would have some type of familiarity with the striker. But of course, he breaks the Serie A record this season with 36 goals in the season. We could have bought him. Of course, that was a summer too with Luis Suarez, who scored 40 league goals this season with Barcelona, and it just to see those two guys kind of flourish. It just kind of like I said, it's a slap in the face. But again, I remember even last summer when the president of Napoli was coming out, or even the owner of Napoli was saying that to buy Higuain is going to cost anywhere from 50 to 55 million euros. Again, that's a lot of money. Higuain's not getting any younger. It's just kind of like the Benzema uh, type um, type of trade, to where Benzema, I believe, is 29, I think, too, at this stage, and it's kind of like it's more of a rental than it is an actual buy. Um, so, like, you're looking at Lukaku, Morata, who are still young, who are still in their early 20s, who still have a lot of football left to play, to where you're looking at Higuain, or even so, even if it would cost 40 million to get a Higuain out of Napoli, I would pay it because that's how sick I am of Drew. That's how sick I am of watching him play for Arsenal and seeing him fluff chance after chance, and just the lack of pace and the lack of awareness, and I'm just gonna pass the ball instead of shoot. I'm just tired of it. And yeah, I've seen Higuain miss some sitters. I don't rate him all that great because I've seen him miss some sitters in some important games, not only for club but for country as well. You can go back to the 2014 World Cup. I think he had like two or three chances that he fluffed. That was right on the plate for him, and he just fluffed them. But again, if if we can get him in to replace Giroud and get him out of the club, or get Giroud just sitting on the bench for 90% of the season, I'm all for it. That's how desperate I am right now. The next name and the last name is Fekir from Lyon. He's had he well he'd be perfect for Arsenal because he had a knee injury this season, which kept him out most of the season. But prior to that, he is just a hot prospect. He has a ton of skill. He's very versatile. Um, you can almost put him. I mean, they classify him as a striker, but I don't know if he would be an actual striker because he played mostly behind Lacazette last year and even part of this year before he got injured. Um, but with a guy like that, if he's so versatile as an attacking midfielder, I mean, that's what I would classify him more as, an attacking midfielder who has a little bit of pace on him, great on the ball, has moves, has finishing. He's a good finisher. He's a really good finisher, good passer of the ball. Why couldn't we put him at the wing? Why couldn't we buy him and put him at the wing to get more production out of our wingers? Because again, that's what we're missing so much this season over the last several seasons is that production of our wingers. Other than Alexis Sanchez, our wingers have sucked. Since Podolski has left, and since we sold him and not given him any time whatsoever, our production on the wing sucks. We need someone who's going to score us consistently at least 15 goals a season and get 10 assists on the season in all competitions. And again, you give the style of our play, you give the players that we have in place with Ozil, Sanchez, and such. he can flourish in this type of attack. He can be that player that can give us that extra momentum boost into the game. That's going to be a difference maker for us, and that's what we lack the most is difference makers. We just do not have enough of them, and that's why Barcelona can walk all over us. That's when we go up to Bayern Munich, they can go walk all over us. We just do not have enough difference makers, and we need that. But one name, and I'm going to move over to wingers real quick. Um, the winger that I would want the most is Mahrez from um, the PF Player of the Year. First year in the fucking league. There's this myth of, well, a player needs at least a year to get used to. Yeah, he fucking, he hit a grand slam. First year out, PF Player of the Year. I mean, there's not too many players that come into the Premier League from a different league and do that. I would like to actually go back to all the PF Players of the Year and see if any person won it after they're just being in the league for not even a year. It would be crazy. I would like to actually see those stats. I should have probably looked them up, but he's a player that I would love to see at Arsenal. Again, you look at his output this year of goals and assists. You see his ball skill. You see his passing. You see his awareness, his ability to defend as well. What more would you want? Arsene Wenger went on record, I think like a month ago, and saying that if Arsenal is interested in him, he said Arsenal has no interest in him. How can you fucking say that about the PF Player of the Year? Back in the day, Arsene Wenger, instead of saying I would have no interest in a player, would say he's a very good player. He would praise the player rather than say we're not interested in him. So that scares me. That scares me just on a scouting uh, aspect of Arsene Wenger, that he cannot recognize the talent that this kid has. And again, young, um, Premier League experience, obviously. He ran roughshod through the Premier League this season. Again, well deserved PF Player of the Year. And you're telling me that we're not interested in a player like that can help us on the wing, who is instantly better than Theo Walcott, instantly better than Oxlade-Chamberlain, instantly better, other than Alexis Sanchez, would be better than any one of our current wingers. I'm loving what Alex Iwobi has shown us, over this last about month and a half. Again, he's just so young that we want more. I want more. I want something better. I want something that's more established and that's going to help us win the league. That's going to help us compete in Champions League instead of a pet project, another one. Theo Walcott was the first pet project. Then Oxlade-Chamberlain was the next pet project. Now Alex Iwobi is going to be a next pet project. I'm sick of this. I'm just sick of them. I'm just sick of hearing this pet project bullshit. We need to buy established players who are going to make a difference for our team and who's going to help us win games, who's going to help us win the league and win us. I mean, you look at Mars, he already has more BPL titles than any one of our players. Well, except for Czech. Czech is the only one. Mares has more BPL titles than all of our team currently, and that's pathetic. So why wouldn't you want a winner like that, a winner and a winner like that to come into to this Arsenal side? So that's definitely, I would buy him in a heartbeat. 30, 35 million, whatever you want for him. If you want 40, take it. Take it. I don't give a shit. Take it. Bring him over. That's there is a nice little conspiracy theory over this weekend. That's another player I'm going to talk about. Is Conte from Leicester City? It's been said that a deal is almost in place for Conte to be transferred to Arsenal. That Conte wants to transfer to Arsenal. He wants to play for Arsenal. Of course, there's a French connection between. Obviously he's French. He's going to be part of the Euros, I believe, this year. Um, and he wants to come here. But it doesn't make a whole, we are missing out. Flamini, Arteta, Rosicky are leaving this summer. We need more help in the midfield. We need a better rotation because, again, we can't trust Jack. We can't trust Ramsey to stay healthy a full season. So we need more players to start coming in. We need more players to start um, strengthening the midfield and just make us better. But there's a nice little conspiracy theory that someone made up that it says we are not interested in Mahrez, but at the same time we're in all these talks with Conte. But in reality, the Conte stuff might be a smokescreen to the real player that we're interested in, the real player that we want to buy, and that's Mahrez, which I hope is real. I really hope it's real. Of course, I'm not going to say no to Conte, but again, with Conte coming in, it almost feels like one player is going to be sold then. Maybe an Aaron Ramsey. You just never know. Because that might be too much coming in at one time because the Granite Chaka, I don't, that's probably butchering his name, from Mönchengladbach, is the deal is basically all said and done. Um, I'll get into that, but more winners going into. I'm just going to name two names here, real quick. Two Real Madrid winners. Jesse Rodriguez, a lot of pace, a lot of skill on the ball. Not a great finisher, but it almost feels like Real Madrid might be on a little bit of a selling spree this year. I don't know if you guys remember back in, I believe, January, there was a lot of leaked information from Real Madrid on what their transfer policies are and what they think of their players and if they're going to sell or buy what they think of their players if they want to sell them this season, this summer at least. Uh, so Jesse Rodriguez and even James or James Rodriguez, I should say, is another name too. It doesn't look like he fit into that number 10 role. In my opinion, I've seen him play the number 10 with Real Madrid, and he just doesn't look comfortable at it. He seems more comfortable at the winger position. That's what he mainly plays kind of with the national team, with the Colombian national team. And even when he was at Monaco, he basically played on the wing most of the time. He seems more comfortable there than anything. He doesn't have great pace to him. He's good on the ball. Obviously, he's a good finisher. He can score that spectacular goal for you. His move to Real Madrid was, I think, too soon. Obviously, Real Madrid, they're always going to buy the hot fudge sundae of the summer. Of course, Bale was the right buy, but buying James Rodriguez for that much money, just because he had an outstanding World Cup, I think it was too fast, too soon, especially for a player like him, to go into that type of atmosphere and to kind of withstand the pressures of their fans and even management there at Real Madrid that expect, if we pay 70 million euros for you, we expect you to produce this much. And if you don't produce that much, they're going to send you right out the door. And it seems like he might be one of the guys that might be getting shown the door this summer, quite possibly so. But again, his price tag might be largely inflated just because of the fact that Real Madrid already paid 70 million euros for him. So what are they going to ask back for? Maybe 50? I wouldn't pay 50 for James Rodriguez, especially with his output over the last year and a half. It's just not there. He's not worth 50 million euros. They might have to take a really big hit for him and go with a 35 or 40 million because that's the only way that they're going to be able to really offload him is for that type of money because I don't see any other club that would be willing to pay that type of money for him. But those are two names. But in my opinion, if we're going to buy a winner or a difference maker type of player, I would go after Mahrez first, Fekir second. Of course, like I said, Fekir is a versatile player. I think he can play on the wing. I think he can play that type of style, and those are the two names that I would really look out for and really be interested in buying. Of course, like I said, the CM central midfield I already named Granite, and then Conte. It almost kind of looks like maybe it's quite possible with El Nani coming in the January window and really showing himself. I mean, what a great buy he was. He really just showed himself this whole entire second half of the season. At times, he got Arsenal Player of the Month 2 months in a row. He was like the best player on the pitch for a lot of games. Uh, Huge work rate, just a great buy. Um, so it kind of proves in a way that Arsene Wenger is still a smart buyer, but at the same time, we still need to go out there and buy those big players too, because those big players are what's gonna, get us over the line. But again, with having those two players come in, Grant and Conte are kind of both holding midfielders rather than attacking midfielders, or to what Jack Wilshere and Aaron Ramsey are. So what does that mean for maybe even a Francis Coquelin? Are we going to sell Coquelin if we do buy Granite and Conte? Like I said, I hope it's a smokescreen that we're saying we're interested in Conte, but we're really going after Mahrez. I really hope so. Because it just doesn't make sense to buy two holding midfielders when we already have Coquelin in place. Um, because Conklin's always going to give us his heart. He's always going to, you saw today in the Aston Villa game. He's all over the place, making interceptions still, making, decent passing and stuff like that. He's not going to score you a goal. He's not going to, give you an over the top ball or anything like that. But again, you know, why have three holding midfielders into the same side? Conte and Granit can play as that CM role, but again, you have El Nani sitting there. So why would you, buy that as well? Unless you're going to switch to like a 4-3-3, which wouldn't make any sense either, because you know Ozil is just wasted on the wing. Honestly, we saw that in the beginning of the last season. He's just wasted there. You don't put a player of his talent on the wing. Um, those are the only two. I know people are still kind of talking about Tony Cruz, and I don't get it. I mean, honestly, Tony Cruz is a good player, but he's not as great as everybody makes him out to be. I mean, he has a good right foot. He can finish, but his passing, his awareness, it's not what I would like out of a CM. I think he's benefited from playing on the German national team with all the great players that surrounds him that make him look better than he is. It's kind of like a Eden Hazard type of scenario where all these people think he's great, but then you really watch him and think, why do people think he's great? And plus, he's slow as shit. I mean, if we want another slow player, then go ahead and buy him. But I don't. I think he might be heading back to. I think he's going to be heading back to Germany. Maybe even Bayern Munich again. Possibly even Dortmund. Possibly even. Leverkusen got back into the Champions League, and then of course Mönchengladbach is back into the Champions League again this year, solidifying their fourth spot. Um, Center backs. As we know, Hummels is going to Bayern Munich. The transfer's already basically complete. I mean, the way they do business up there in Bayern Munich, I fucking wish we could just take their whole transfer team, their sporting director, and just fucking transfer them over to Arsenal and teach Arsene Wenger this is how you fucking do the transfer window. Because the way they do business, I mean, they'll have their transfer window done before mid-June, and that's crazy to me. Even Man City is kind of like that too. They get their business done early, to where the rest of the summer is just kind of like let's sit back, relax, and wait for our first preseason game so we can watch these guys for the first time. But Hummels is going to Bayern Munich, so I think that opens the door for a Bayern Munich center back to be released. Uh, this name is again, I think I'm going to be butchering it. I'm just horrible with last names. Uh, he was on Roma, then he got transferred to Bayern Munich. Benatia, again, I'm sorry if I butcher his name. You can hate me in the comments. I don't care. But he might be available for, because they still have Boateng. Javi Martinez is there too as well, who seems like he's going to be more of a center back now than a holding midfielder. That's a name that I wish we could have got a couple of years ago. While he was just sitting on the bench at Bayern Munich, he would have been great for us as a holding midfielder. Big, strong, reads the game well. But again, with Hummels, Boateng, Javi Martinez, they might go with a three center back pairing. Uh, you know, Carlo Ancelotti is kind of used to that. That's what he had to deal with at Real Madrid with Varane, Ramos, and Pepe. Um, so he's kind of used to that, having only three strikers available. And I'm sure they have something in their youth system somewhere that they can bring someone up, or they'll buy some young center back or something to take up that fourth spot. So he might be available um, uh, this summer, and that's someone that we should be taking a look at because um, he's going into the last year of his contract. I think we should try to sell him to a German club. If we can get fucking 5 million, I would take it. If we can get £5 million, 5 million euros, whatever have you, if you can get that type of money for him, I would fucking take it in a heartbeat. Because this is the one thing that we're kind of stupid at in the transfer window is holding on to players for too long. We're not selling players off like we should and trying to get some type of profit out of them. We should try to get some profit out of Theo Walcott, Oxley Chamberlain, Aaron Ramsey, Olivier Giroud even. Especially if he has a good Euros, we could just have that selling point. Sell him to Monaco, sell him to Lyon if they get rid of Lacazette or something. Sell him to somewhere in Liga to say, here's a Frenchie, take him back to get something out of him. it would be nice. So to get Per out the door, unless you're just going to have him on as a squad player to try to help Gabriel and Colum Chambers, who needs to be fast tracked now. He needs to get some playing time, and we need to find out. Because in the beginning of last season, when Colcioni was out, even when Per was out for a short time, he played great at the center half position. He looked comfortable. He looked like, oh my God, this prospect is going to be amazing in a few years' time when he starts to mature as a player. And why not be that time now? People keep on saying, well, I'd rather see Per there because Gabriel is just not ready. How the fuck do you know when someone's ready? You play him. You keep on giving him minutes. You keep on giving him playing time. That's how you fucking find out if someone is ready or not. And people keep on saying, oh, he's not ready. He's not ready. He's not ready. You will never know that if he's ready or not unless you fucking keep on playing him. And so I'd rather see next year start as a partnership unless we can get this Benatia guy. Again, I'm butchering his name. I just know I am. Um, I know I sound like an idiot, but um, if we can get him in, he's an established center back. He's played for Roma. He's played in the Serie A, which is just a defensive heavy league. He's played for Bayern Munich and has done okay. I wouldn't say he's people were trying to call him world class when he transferred over to Bayern Munich. I think he's still he's probably in that top tierish. Uh, he's not world class. There's so many few world class center halves in the world right now. People want a world class center half to come in. There's so many few of them out there. That's the one position I think, along with the fullbacks, that is just slowly dying as you see the progression of football in the modern era. Just because there's not too much glory in it. There's not too much as much money in it as it probably used to be, which I think countries and even clubs, they really have to start putting into players' heads and kids' heads as saying, look, you can still have all the glory, you can still have all the money. I mean, look at some of the money that Ramos and PK and some of these players, Thiago Silva. I mean, they're making huge amounts of money. You know, why? Because you're not scoring the game-winning goal or anything. Being the centerpiece. I mean, screw all that. The center halves over time, over the last 10 years, have gotten weaker and weaker and weaker throughout time. So getting a top-tier type of center half who has experience, who has big club experience, get him in. I think one of those center halves are going to be available from Bayern Munich. So why not get them in? Another name. Um, yeah, I'm probably not going to. This is going on for far too long. I'm probably going to make another video talking about the season a little bit. I want to really get back into talking about some of the coaching staff, obviously the medical staff. I want them all fired. Anybody under Arsene Wenger, he just needs to fire them all and get people in who are not only going to look after the players, who are going to treat the players properly and on the medical field side of things, but also a coaching staff that is actually going to teach the players how to play their position and how to make them better. You know, this whole season, you saw today, Hector Bellerin still can't whip the fucking ball in. He's going to have a fight on his hands when Carl Jenkinson comes back from loan because Jenkinson can whip the ball in, especially if somehow, some way, oh fuck, if Giroud stays on, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking lose it. But I'll get into that in the next video and talking about that a little bit more because I didn't want to go into too much bashing of the manager and the staff and everything just because it is St. Tottenham's Day and I'd rather enjoy it than and then get mean and get angry and everything like that. So this will be it. Leave your comments. Who or what do you think we need in this transfer window? In my opinion, striker, winger, central midfield, and a center back. That's what we need um, to make this transfer window perfect. And we need to spend at least 100 million pounds. There's no way around it. Not this summer. And I think Arsene Wenger knows that. He knows he doesn't have the support of the fan base anymore. He has his AKBs running around like idiots. But he has the people who are on the fence who are ready to go over to the Wenger out brigade. Those people are really on the fence right now. They want to see what he does during the summer. Because if he doesn't, good luck to him next year. Because if we see the same nonsense, the same bullshit, good luck to him. Because he's gonna get booed right off the fucking pitch, and it's just gonna keep on getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So he needs to spend a ton of money, 100 million minimum. I mean, today the contracts for the TV contracts were released today. Arsenal Football Club made more money than the champions of Leicester City. Leicester City only got 93 million pounds. Arsenal Football Club received 101 million pounds from the TV contracts this season. You take that money, you take the 200. Like I said in some of my other episodes, we'll have probably around 250 million just sitting in the bank, especially growing interest. 250, 260 million pounds just sitting there. We need to spend at least 100 of it. And it shouldn't be. It won't even make a dent into our finances at all. It needs to be spent. It needs to. That's the only way I think that Arsene Wenger is going to get the people who are currently on the fence back on his side. For me, I'm just completely done with it, but I'll get into that in another episode. Like I said, let's just kind of enjoy this day, this week, make fun of Tottenham as much as you can. Tell them to go fuck off as much as you can for this whole summer. They had the best season they ever had in the BPL, and they still shit the bed. So enjoy it. Enjoy the summer. I'll probably be doing maybe an episode, maybe every 2 weeks or something like that, or any type of names that come up. I'll try to look stuff up and try to give you my opinion on a certain player if he's good for us, if he's bad for us. But like I said, spend that money, Arson.